So what should your financial goals be for 2021? We're going to talk about that a little bit today. Let's get moving forward. Hi everyone, welcome to the Plan Ranger, where our goal is to provide you with informed insights and a reasonable approach for managing your personal finances. Now, before we dive in, please click like, subscribe, join the Plan Ranger community. We would love to have you as a part of it, obviously, here. And in addition to that, by signing up and subscribing, you'll receive notifications when we regularly post our content that is designed for you to help guide your financial decision making. When we talk about goals in terms of the Trailhead, which we did a video on a couple weeks ago, and I'll post a link up above here you can check out. We view goals as destinations. And, in this financial landscape. And a lot of people just wander around the landscape with really no particular direction or anywhere that they want to go to. And that can actually cause a lot of really bad burn on your money. And so if you really want to make your money as efficient as possible to hopefully derive as much enjoyment as possible out of your money, then having good, sound goals or destinations in mind will help you be more efficient, will help you get to where you want to go faster, right? And so we're going to talk a little bit today about how you should get to those destinations and what those destinations should be at this point in time. So, what should your financial decisions be, and why are we talking about this in the second week of the new year? Well, first things first, at least me personally, I'm a big believer in not setting your goals on December 31st. It seems like a logical thing. Okay, hey, start the year fresh, start the year new. But the very first day of the new year is a holiday, and most people are still in recovering mode. And when you set those goals, there's this fever and emotion and everything that's going on with New Year, and you're going to create a new year, and this year is going to be different. Yeah, well, it's mid-January, and it's just like every other January that's ever come before, for most people probably, right? It's just another year. And so, at least me personally, I like to wait at least a couple weeks or make my goals and set my goals at a point when there's not some crazy fever going on. When you can take a sober and realistic look at A, what you want to achieve, and B, can you actually probably do it in the time frame you're giving yourself? So, that's why we're talking about that now. And as we get started, one of the things to take into account here is, are you good at setting and hitting goals? If you are, then you can probably go ahead and just skip to the end here. If you're not, if you're one of those people that's either new to goals, or you've had trouble setting them in the past, or you set them and forget them, or whatever is stopping you from achieving your goals, then maybe this little intro here will be helpful for you. And this is one of those instances where it's good to be honest with yourself. So often, at least in the United States, there's this idea of eternal optimism and go get it, and you have to build yourself in bootstraps and all this great stuff that you should be out there doing this stuff for yourself. Some people are terrible at setting goals. Some people don't do it at all, and that might be you. And you know what? If that's where you're at, that's fine. That's your starting point. And a lot of people start there, and a lot of people never even get to that point. So if you're here watching this, good for you. You're off to a good start already. Next thing is, keep in mind, there can sometimes be a lot of social pressure with Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and on YouTube and all these different places out there for you to share your goals and what are your goals for 2021 and this, that, and the other. Your goals are your goals, and frankly, most people don't care about your goals, right? So feel free to keep it to yourself. This is about you. And especially if you're one of the people that's had trouble setting goals in the past, then at least for the sake of this exercise, we're going to keep things simple and basic, right? The goal here is not to try and reach the sky and see how far you can get and yada, 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 all that stuff. Rather, we're going to see if we can even get our feet off the ground. That's kind of the point of this if you've struggled with goals in the past. And that's really one of the things that can trip people up, is the idea of this toxic positivity out there that you can achieve anything, the impossible is nothing, and all of these great things that belong on some poster at some lame store in a mall in 1993 or something like that. All of that stuff should just go out the window at this point, right? That toxic positivity stuff. Because frankly, for about 99.5% of the people out there, I would be willing to bet that it causes more harm than good. Instead of trying to achieve anything and put yourself in to achieve anything, the goal right now is, let's make sure we can achieve something. The whole point of this exercise is to check boxes. This is about developing yourself into a person that can routinely set and accomplish goals, about a person who can make goal setting and achieving those goals a habit. And because that's really what it can become. And if we start small and we build from there, we can start to turn goal setting and hitting these things into a habit where you hit a point where you can say, okay, I know if I set this goal, I know I can get it. And the way to do that is not to say, hey, I'm going to start with the biggest one first. Is start small and work our way up. So for 2021, what type of financial goals should you be setting? I'm going to recommend that you start with two goals. And we're going to talk about each of these here. The first goal is going to be a target goal. A target goal is going to be the simple thing of, hey, I want to try and pay down X amount of debt, or I want to try and save Y, right? So if you have some debts, like maybe a small credit card, a couple $1,000 or whatever the amount is, or you don't have an emergency fund or a control account and you want to go ahead and do that, then maybe you should try and aim at that during this year. But that's going to be our target goal that we want to try and hit by the end of the year. The way to do that, obviously, or at least the most straightforward way to accomplish that, is to go ahead and put that goal out there and just divide it by the number of weeks or divide it by the number of months you have, and then start setting that money aside for, on a monthly basis to make that happen, right? Create a plan and execute it. Focus on something small that you can accomplish, that there's no doubt in your mind you can do that. The other goal we need to talk about is a habit goal. And this is going to be a little more, most people don't think about these types of things when they think about goals, right? Most people think about the one I just talked about, the target goal, that, hey, I want to save $5,000. I want to pay down $4,000 of debt. Those are great, and that is a type of goal you should have. But this other goal is just as, if not more important, the habit goal. What I mean by that is, take a weekly or monthly type of thing. Let's say you're going to say, hey, every month at the end of the month, on the last day of the month, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to review all my expenses. Every month, I'm going to look at all of them, all my receipts, all my, debit card transactions, or if you use an online system that kind of does this for you, you're going to go through and look at how much money you spent each month. And ideally, what categories those went into. Did you spend a little too much going out? Did you spend a little too much on fast food, on travel, on whatever? Just become conscientious about where your money's going. That's an example of one, right? The other thing you can do is track your net worth every week or every month. You can review your investment portfolio on a quarterly basis. You can read a book, a book about personal finance every quarter. You could wake up every morning and read one article of financial news. Something along those lines that will engage you more in your finances, that you can make a habit out of every single week or every single month. And now the key thing to the habit part of this is you need to create a calendar or a spreadsheet or a checklist, something that you can mark off or acknowledge, hey, I did this or I didn't do this when I said I would, right? And we're going to talk about why that matters in just a second here. All of this kind of convalesces around an idea of what are called SMART goals. And, you may or may not have heard of those, but it goes back to the 1950s, a management consultant named Peter Drucker. Anyways, SMART goals is an acronym which stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely, right? And that's how you should structure your goals. A lot of people try and reinvent the wheel, but this is a pretty sound model. So what we're looking for here when we're setting goals are goals that are specific. The idea, setting a goal, I want to become better with money. That's not a specific goal. There's really no way to know when you've arrived at your destination or if you've hit your goal. So get specific. You should be able to identify, I want this number. I want to do this action, right? Those are things that are specific. The next part of that is measurable. And this is where, creating that checklist or the calendar or spreadsheet comes into play with this habit. You want to be able to measure what's occurring with your goal. What can be measured will be improved. I'm a huge believer in that. If you start measuring something, for example, let's say you want to lose weight. If you start weighing yourself every single day, regardless of if you ate 5 burritos the day before, you still get on the scale that next day, you're going to start to hold yourself accountable, right? And you're going to start to acknowledge the things and the variables that are affecting whether or not you're moving towards the goal you want. And so you need to have something that's measurable there. And that's where this checklist or the schedule, calendar, whatever comes into play. The A stands for attainable. And this goes back to the idea of you can achieve anything. Probably not. I'm an eternal optimist. I think most people are capable of pretty incredible things if they apply themselves to it. But the idea that you can achieve anything, I'm not a buyer of that. And I think that it, again, probably causes people more harm than good because it probably causes people to overshoot at least in the early stages of goal setting. So right now, these goals, these two basic goals that we're setting, we want them to be really basic. I almost don't even want there to be a challenge. The next one is relevant. Now, these two tiny goals that we're talking about setting, the target goal and the habit goal, you may be able to accomplish these things just by sheer will. Even if they're not really relevant to you, your purpose, your destination where you're trying to get to, you might still be able to accomplish it. But as you start setting more mid-size and larger goals, those things really do need to be relevant to who you are, what you're trying to accomplish, what you view your purpose as. Because when things get challenging and they become a struggle, you're going to evaluate whether or not you really want what's on the other side of that mountain, whether or not you're willing to stay on that trail through everything that might be coming, right? And so I think relevant is an important thing to have in your goal setting. And then finally, the T, which stands for time, or timely. People often want immediate results, especially in the United States. We're very quick about, hey, look, I wanted this yesterday, right? Really, if you're really trying to evolve who you are, develop yourself into something that you view as better, it's probably going to take time. It's going to take, and with these goals, if you said, hey, I'm going to save $100, you might be able to do that in a month. If you said, I want to save $1 million, now we need to chart a course of 30 years, maybe more, maybe less, but you need to give yourself ample time to achieve the goal. Be realistic with that, as far as, and maybe give yourself a little bit of leeway here. And if you're trying to target this goal for the end of the year, 2021, then you may need to dial back your goal a little bit to make sure that you can ensure that these two things will happen, right? I'm going to add one last thing here that a lot of people probably don't think about when they're setting goals that I would suggest you consider, and that's incentive. When we're talking about this target goal and this habit goal, I also want you to create a reward for yourself, right? And I know the goal, the thing in itself, that should be the reward. Yeah, but a lot of times doing the things we need to do, the result we want isn't really a reward per se. It's just something we kind of know we need to do maybe. It's not exciting or thrilling or doesn't really spark those endorphins that we want to have. And so, it's important to celebrate your victories, along the way, when you have them. And a lot of people think, well, the victory itself celebrate it. Actually make a point out of going out and recognizing that you've accomplished something. Make a point out of recognizing the distance that's now behind you because of the steps you've been taking. So whether that is go out for a night on the town, take a small vacation, whatever it is. What I would probably suggest is take whatever that target amount is that you're trying to pay down in debt or save. Maybe take 10% of that. So let's say let's say your goal was, I want to save $5,000. If you can, maybe try and build in a little extra, or you could take off of that goal if you need to a little bit here, that $5,000. Take maybe 10% and use that to purchase yourself something, to go out, have an experience, ideally. Go out for a night on the town, stay in a hotel, whatever. Take that money and just celebrate your win. Celebrate it that you did what you needed to do and that you've accomplished something. Because when you recognize that, I think that when you recognize those types of things, you can then also kind of more deeply understand that you can achieve things if you put your mind to it and give it time, if you actually apply yourself, right? And so I think there's a lot of benefit to be had with creating incentives like that to reward yourself for achieving goals. We'll go ahead and stop there. Hopefully the incentive thing helps out a little bit, and hopefully this helps you to kind of create some goals and write them down for yourselves and actually hold yourself accountable to, hey, this year, 2021, I'm going to bank these 2 easy things and I'm going to develop and turn goal setting and hitting goals into a habit. I'd be curious to know, what are your goals for 2021? Please feel free to leave them down below in the comments. If you have any questions you'd like us to address on the channel, leave those down in the comments below as well. Click like, subscribe, join the Plan Ranger community. We'd love to have you, of course. Until next time, thank you very much for taking the time. We hope this helped.